For 9 seasons, Last Man Standing felt like a fixture in living rooms across the country, a blue-collar family comedy built around Tim Allen's Mike Baxter, his 3 daughters, and a household that somehow stayed funny no matter how many times the world outside it changed. But viewers who watched the show from the beginning noticed something else too. The family on screen kept shifting. Actors who originated beloved roles quietly vanished between seasons, replaced by new faces who were rarely given much explanation at all. Some departures were framed as creative decisions. Others turned out to be tangled up in network politics, scheduling nightmares, and a cancellation that nearly ended the show for good. This is the real story of why the cast of Last Man Standing kept changing, and how a show that got canceled once still managed to survive 9 seasons on 2 different networks. By 2011, Tim Allen had been away from a weekly sitcom for years, and he was choosy about coming back. He reportedly turned down other offers, including one from CBS that would have paid him roughly $1 million an episode, before agreeing to headline Last Man Standing. What made the difference wasn't the paycheck. It was creative control. Allen came on board not just as a star, but as an executive producer with real influence over the direction of the show, a deal that would matter enormously once the series started tackling political and cultural material. Series creator Jack Burdett built the character of Mike Baxter as something like an older, more grounded cousin of Allen's tool-time persona from Home Improvement, a father navigating a household of 3 daughters and, later, a shifting cultural landscape. ABC leaned into the comparison to another classic sitcom formula, a strong-willed, conservative-leaning dad whose views would regularly be challenged by the women in his life. The network placed the show on Friday nights, historically one of the toughest slots in television, betting that Allen's name recognition alone could carry it. The bet paid off. When Last Man Standing premiered in October 2011, it drew over 13 million viewers, ABC's biggest comedy debut in years, and it dominated its time slot from the very first season, performing especially well with viewers between 18 and 49. Over its 6 seasons on ABC, the show consistently pulled in more than 8 million viewers an episode, numbers that made its eventual cancellation all the more baffling to fans. But long before that cancellation, the show had already quietly rebuilt one of its central characters from the ground up. In Season 1, Mike Baxter's eldest daughter, Kristen, was played by actress Alexandra Krosny. Kristen was written as a young single mother, still a teenager when she had her son Boyd, working as a waitress and living back home while she figured out her next move. Krosny brought a lot of warmth and sharp comic timing to the role, and her chemistry with Tim Allen was one of the season's highlights. Then, after just 1 season, ABC let Krosny go. The official explanation at the time was simply creative differences, and neither the network nor the show's producers offered much more detail publicly. What emerged later was a more layered picture. Producers wanted to age Kristen up and make her feel more like an experienced young mother rather than a teenager still finding her footing, in part to open up new storylines where she could go toe-to-toe with her father on political and social issues. There was also a practical wrinkle behind the scenes. Even though Kristen was supposed to be the eldest Baxter daughter, Krosny was actually younger than Molly Ephraim, who played the middle daughter, Mandy. Bringing in an older actress solved that continuity problem, while giving the writers room to deepen the character. The role was recast with actress Amanda Fuller, who was several years older than both Krosny and Ephraim and brought a more grounded, maternal energy to the part. Fuller would go on to play Kristen for the rest of the series, eventually becoming known to a wider audience for her recurring role on Orange is the New Black. The switch wasn't universally welcomed. Fans took to social media at the time to voice their frustration, some even organizing pages dedicated to bringing Krosny back, and Fuller has since spoken about the difficulty of stepping into a role that audiences had already bonded with, saying that earning that trust back took real time and patience. Kristen's on-again, off-again love interest and the father of her son, Ryan Vogelson, went through an even more unusual recasting story. He was first introduced in a December 2011 Christmas episode, played by a 19-year-old Nick Jonas in what amounted to a single high-profile guest appearance designed to generate buzz. That first version of Ryan was written as immature and unreliable, a teenager who had run out on his responsibilities, and was only now stumbling back into the picture. When Tim Doyle took over as showrunner for Season 2, he saw more potential in the character than a one-off punchline. Doyle wanted Ryan to evolve into a smarter, more complicated presence in the Baxter household. Someone who could genuinely spar with Mike over politics and values rather than simply serve as a cautionary tale. Jonas, who had other commitments, didn't return, and the role was recast with actor Jordan Masterson, previously known for the series Greek. Masterson's version of Ryan grew considerably over following seasons, evolving from a struggling young father into a more mature, politically outspoken character, and eventually into the owner of his own cannabis business, a plot twist the show mined for plenty of comedy, given Mike's staunchly traditional worldview. By May 2017, Last Man Standing was still one of ABC's most reliable performers, regularly topping 8 million viewers a season, and consistently winning its Friday nighttime slot. So when ABC announced it was canceling the show after 6 seasons, it caught almost everyone off guard, including the cast. The timing fueled speculation. Just months earlier, Tim Allen had made headlines or comments on Jimmy Kimmel Live, joking about how uncomfortable it could feel to hold conservative political views in Hollywood. When the cancellation came, many fans and commentators immediately wondered whether the show's political leanings or Allen's own had played a role. ABC Entertainment President Channing Dungey addressed the controversy directly and repeatedly in the months that followed, telling reporters that politics had absolutely nothing to do with the decision, and that the network was simply moving away from comedies on Friday nights in favor of genre programming. She pointed out that Last Man Standing had been renewed on a near-annual, down-to-the-wire basis for years, and at this time the numbers on the schedule simply didn't work out in the show's favor. Not everyone was convinced. Cast members reacted with visible frustration. Allen posted that he felt stunned and blindsided by a network he had called home for 6 years. Nancy Travis, who played his TV wife Vanessa, thanked fans publicly for their support, and Hector Elizondo, who played Mike's business partner Ed, suggested in interviews that politics might have factored into the decision more than the network was laying on. Behind the scenes, there were also more mundane financial pressures. ABC was reportedly paying a substantial per-episode licensing fee to the studio behind the show, on top of a 7-figure annual salary for his lead actor, costs that made the show more expensive to keep than some of its ratings-driven competitors. Whatever the mix of reasons, some cast members reacted to cancellation very differently than others. The show's younger actors, in particular, didn't wait around to see if a revival might happen. Molly Ephraim had played Mandy Baxter, the family's fashion-obsessed middle daughter, for all 6 seasons on ABC. When the cancellation hit, she assumed, like most people, that the show was simply done. Rather than waiting on the off chance of a revival, she moved quickly into new projects, taking roles in shows including Brockmire, alongside Hank Azaria in Halt and Catch Fire. By the time Fox announced it was reviving Last Man Standing roughly a year later, Ephraim's schedule was already full, and returning as Mandy was no longer realistic. Rather than searching for another actress who physically resembled Ephraim, the production made a deliberate choice to recast a role with someone who could bring a different energy entirely. They landed on Molly McCook, an actress with a distinctly different look and presence, and the show leaned into that contrast instead of hiding it, working a handful of self-aware jokes about the change directly into the scripts. The transition wasn't smooth with the audience. When McCook debuted as Mandy in Season 7, a vocal segment of fans pushed back hard, rallying around a hashtag #NotMyMandy. McCook didn't try to imitate her predecessor. Instead, she built her own version of the character, leaning into Mandy's passion for fashion and her ambitions as a designer, while the writers gave her heavy material to work with, including storylines about pregnancy and her relationship with her on-screen husband, Kyle. Over time, particularly through emotional scenes opposite Tim Allen, McCook won over much of the audience that had initially resisted her. Caitlin Dever, who played youngest daughter Eve Baxter, took a different path entirely. After the initial ABC cancellation, she pivoted hard toward film work, landing a breakout role in Kathryn Bigelow's Detroit. From there, her career accelerated quickly. Within about 18 months, she had major parts in Booksmart, alongside Beanie Feldstein, and in the Netflix limited series Unbelievable, a performance that earned her Golden Globe and BAFTA nominations. Booksmart became a critical and commercial success in its own right. That rising profile made a full-time return to Last Man Standing increasingly difficult. When Fox revived the series, Dever shifted from series regular to recurring guest star, appearing in 7 episodes of Season 7, then dropping to just 2 in Season 8. The COVID-19 pandemic complicated things further, since travel and quarantine requirements made it even harder to schedule her limited appearances around other projects. By the final season, she appeared in only 3 episodes, including the series finale. To account for her reduced presence, the writers sent her character to the Air Force Academy, a plot device that let the show explain her absence while still allowing occasional, emotionally weighted returns, including video calls of the family, and at least 1 episode built specifically around her limited availability. Despite the reduced role, Dever continued booking major work during the stretch, including Dopesick alongside Michael Keaton, the film adaptation of Dear Evan Hansen, and later a role in HBO's The Last of Us. After ABC's cancellation, 20th Century Fox Television, the studio behind the show, began shopping around other networks, including cable outlets. Ultimately, Fox itself decided to bring the show back, a decision influenced in part by the success ABC had recently seen reviving Roseanne. In May 2018, Fox officially announced it was picking up Last Man Standing for a new season, investing heavily in the relaunch. The turnaround was tight. With only a matter of months between the announcement and the planned September premiere, writers had a short runway to develop new scripts, and the production team had to rebuild a set that had already been dismantled after the ABC cancellation. Costs rose across the board for the revival compared to the original run, and to help offset the expense, Fox sold streaming rights to outlets including Hulu. The gamble worked, at least commercially. The Fox premiere drew a strong audience, and the show continued performing well across its new episodes even as production later had to navigate pandemic-related shutdowns. In May 2020, Fox announced that Last Man Standing would end after its 9th season, even though the show was still pulling solid ratings and remained one of the network's better-performing comedies. Producer Kevin Abbott has said the team had actually been developing ideas for a 10th season, including a storyline that would have had Amanda Fuller's Kristen take over the family's outdoor supply business and rebrand it, exploring generational change within the Baxter family. Once it became clear the 9th season would be the last, the writers wanted to send the show off with something memorable. That idea eventually became a crossover, bringing Tim Allen's other iconic sitcom character, Tim the Toolman Taylor from Home Improvement, into the world of Last Man Standing. The idea had been floated in various forms for years, including concepts for a full Tool Time reunion special or a storyline revealing the Baxters and Taylors were distantly related, but rights issues between studios made those ideas difficult to execute. Getting the final version approved required extensive negotiation with Disney, which owned the rights to Home Improvement, and by Abbott's account, the deal wasn't formally locked in until just before the script read-through. Allen, who would be playing both of his signature characters, wanted to make sure Tim Taylor was treated with real respect and given a believable reason for showing up in Colorado, and the writers reportedly reworked the episode multiple times to satisfy both him and the original Home Improvement creative team. Allen also rewatched old episodes to make sure the two characters felt distinct from one another rather than blurring into the same guy in a different outfit. The finished episode wove in small nods to longtime fans and gave some closure to what had happened to Tim Taylor in the years since Home Improvement ended, becoming one of the most talked-about moments of the show's entire run, and a fitting bookend for 2 sitcoms that had shaped Tim Allen's career decades apart. Looking back across 9 seasons and 2 networks, the story of Last Man Standing's ever-changing cast isn't really one story at all, it's several. Some actors left because the writers wanted to reshape a character's age and dynamic within the family. Some left because a sudden cancellation sent them chasing other opportunities before anyone knew a revival was even possible. Others simply outgrew the show, their careers accelerating into film and prestige television faster than a family sitcom could accommodate. And running underneath almost all of it was a genuine, still unresolved argument about whether politics played a bigger role in the show's fate than the network ever admitted. What kept Last Man Standing alive through all of that turnover was the one constant at its center, Tim Allen, and the creative control he fought for from the very beginning. That control let the show survive a cancellation most series never come back from, rebuild its cast more than once, and still land on a finale that honored both the characters that made Allen a household name. Which recast do you think changed the show the most? Let us know in the comments below.